Hi, my name is Frank Hill, and I'm going to take you through a demonstration on how to set up a HTML calculator application. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the basic language for presenting information on the internet. You'll also use a common language called JavaScript. JavaScript will be used for calculations. HTML is good for showing information and formatting the same information, but has no capabilities to do any programming. JavaScript takes over that functions. In the third example, we will also use cascading style sheets, which is a language that's used to make the presentation on the web page look pretty, if you will. You'll notice here a basic calculator, four-function calculator. Also looks very much like a web page. And first, I'm going to show you how to use this calculator. And then later on, as I said, you're going to code and debug it and make it work. So let's do some basic functions. 12 times 12 equals 144 divided by 12 equals, and it gives you the answer 12, plus 2 equals minus 6 equals, and we also have a clear function, but before I do clear, I'm going to use my percent key. And so I converted it to percent, and now I will clear it, and we have used all the capabilities of the calculator. This is version 1, and so I'm going to give you a chance to create and debug, and as I said, make this work. This is the code for the application. Notice that we have a less than and a greater than, and we have HTML, which says that this is a tag. Tags are used to create HTML documents, and you see them throughout the application. Notice we have a head tag, which is for heading, and if I look down at the beneath, after everything in the heading is entered, you have a close. There's a body tag, which has the rest of the calculator. Notice the buttons. The other thing that you need to know is that you need to make sure that when it says a capital letter inside the code, you use a capital letter. If it's lowercase, use a lowercase because it's case sensitive. Now, let me further explain how some of the tags work in terms of the button for the calculator. Let's look at button 1. This value shows what's going to be displayed on the button. The 1 represents a name within the code. This on-click represents a program that's going to be called. And what this program does is this adds the value of that button to the text box at the top of the calculator. And you keep adding those key entries until you get ready to calculate something, which is right here where you see the equal, in which case you call this eval function, JavaScript function, which is built into all of the web browser. And then there will be a calculation done. If you keyed in 12 plus 12, this command causes the multiplication to happen and the results to be placed within the button, within the text box at the top. Now, let's assume that you entered in all of your codes and you have it correct. The next thing you need to do is save your file, which means you go up to File and you click Save As, and you give it the number, the name Calculator, make it calculator.html, and select all files so that the file will be saved as calculator.html instead of calculator.txt. And after you've done that, you can now click on the name calculator, which is on your desktop or wherever the location is that you saved your file, and the calculator will come up and you can use it just as you saw the example in the demo in the beginning. And if you have any problems, talk to your instructor. Now that you've created your calculator, it is a full-fledged web page, and it can be used any place that you can run a web page or have any kind of browser function. If you can get this onto your phone, it can run on your phone. You can put it on a tablet. You can put it on any kind of PC. And all you need to do to execute is to click on the icon. You can also modify this calculator to add new functions or to change the color arrangement. As a matter of fact, in a subsequent video, I will show you how to change the styles and how to add functions to the calculator. This is an example of how any software program is created. You create a base application and you modify it from there. Just make sure you get a good structure from the beginning, and it'll be easily modified. So, enjoy the experience. Okay, now that you've got that first version of the calculator working, let's move on and create another one. This version will have some extra buttons, and you should start to see a pattern in how you add code to add or embellish an existing product. So let me bring up the code. Well, first let me show you the calculator with the enhancements on it, and then I'll show you the code and give you an idea of how you get there. Okay, now we have a calculator with an extra 2 buttons. First, let me just make sure that they work, and then I'll show you the code that was needed to get this done. So let's put in a number, 25. Now let's go ahead and square it or multiply the number times itself. And we see that's done. Let's put in another number, 86, and let's cube that number. That is, raise the number to the 3rd power. And we have a much bigger number. So now let's take a look at how that was done. Okay, let's take another look at the code. Much of this code you see will be the same as it was before, and one of the things that you'll notice is that extra functions have been added. Each of the buttons that actually does a calculation needs a program. This is the initial program that you use to do the percent calculation. And now here is a function or a short program that's used to actually do the multiplication that's needed to come up with a square number. And here is another function that was added just for the cube function. Now, every time you press a button, you want to get that function to work. So here's the code for the square function, and here is the code for the cube function. If you were to add other buttons to the application, you would have to add the button and then add the function at the top, which is a program that would carry out the task. And with this kind of application, this is kind of how it's done. And you will also see this kind of pattern in other applications that you'll work on. Now let's take a look at our last version of the calculator. This one contains something we call style sheets. Style sheets are used to enhance the look of web pages. And there are two ways of doing it. One is you can use a tool, an advanced web formatting tool, or you can use Notepad. And I'm going to show you code in Notepad. This is something that you probably won't memorize, but in later videos I'll show you a better or an improved way of doing this so that it doesn't take so much detailed effort in memorizing things. Here's the calculator with the next addition to it. A style sheet has been added, which gives a nice look to the buttons. It gives them a rounded look, and it also adds color, different colors. And the calculator functions the same way the previous calculator did. It's just a little nicer, and you can change the style to almost anything that you want. There's a lot of variations here, and the one here I will show you, which will just add not a lot of lines of code, but it will add to it. So now let's take a look at the code with the style sheet. You'll notice that the calculator works the same. I'll just key in something. The code for the calculator has been updated again, and I'm going to show you the change that's been made. This is a style definition. Style applies to things like the font type, whether the text is bold or whether it's italics. And in this case, it's dealing mostly with some buttons. So there's a change for the different segments of the button, and this 10px, that applies to the thickness. One dot on a screen is 1 pixel or 1 px, and 10 is a little bit bigger. So we have this definition. It's being grouped, and the name of that group is New Style 1. We'll go down and take a look at the buttons. And so, in addition to the code that we had before for the buttons, we've added a class, and that class is New Style 1. which means that that button takes on all the properties of new style 1. We had the button before, it was just a default button, just a plain old button. Now, this is what allows the classy. And as you can see, we go all the way through the end, and all of the buttons have had that style added to it. And I may have mentioned before that there are other ways of deriving these styles. For instance, if you don't know what this means, there are tools that will let you visually see what you're creating, and it will automatically create this style, and you can then use that in your code. I think we're at the end of this calculator demo. I hope it was fun, and definitely will have others on other projects.